Good evening. Hi, good evening. It's really wonderful to see a room that full. That's wonderful. I should introduce myself. So my name is Isabelle Bajeux, and I'm the Dean of the Tepper School of Business. And it is really my pleasure to welcome all of you this evening. I want to welcome you to the Tepper School of Business and to the UBS Family Business Leadership Speaker Series. This session is a part of our Family Business Initiative and kicks off our three-part series, which will continue throughout this academic year. Special thanks to one of our Tepper School faculty member, Meredith Mayer-Grelly, for spearheading the Family Business Initiative, and to our partners at UBS for their sponsorship. Family businesses are an essential part of our economy, accounting for half of our domestic GDP and labor force. I will go to a personal story. I myself grew up in a family business. My mom owned a small retail store in Paris. You could figure that out from my accent. I remember working there from the age of 10 years old, selling garments to our customers. Every Saturday and Sunday morning, I learned about sales from my mom. I fondly remember my experience there. It taught me lots of valuable skills that I carried out into adulthood. Tonight, we do have the distinct pleasure of hearing Mr. Ed Stack's remarkable story of growing his family business. He took what started as his father's bait and tackle shop in Binghamton, New York, and made it into the Dick's Sporting Goods we know today. Dick's is a $10 billion enterprise and America's largest sporting good retailer. I know I look forward to his presentation. But first, I would like to introduce Andrew Shantz. Andrew is the managing director and second-generation partner in the Shantz Mattione Group at UBS Private Wealth Management. He's been building relationships and improving the financial lives of entrepreneurs and their families for almost 30 years. Andrew will be giving us a sneak peek of our upcoming talks in the series. Thank you very much, and I'll give you Andrew.
Thank you, Dean Bajeux. It's exciting to be here. I spent the day in the facility and meeting the entrepreneurs, meeting the students. It's been a lot of fun. So on behalf of UBS, we're thrilled to sponsor the Family Business Leadership Speaker Series and Professor Grelly's Family Business Initiative. As the dean said, I've worked in a family business myself for almost 30 years, and I know we all have a lot to talk about when we work in family businesses. So whenever I get a chance to meet successful entrepreneurs and be in an event like this, I think we all have an opportunity to listen, hear the stories, and learn and possibly improve our businesses. So again, I'll welcome you all for being here today, and I hope you'll come back and join us in February and March when we have two remarkable family business leaders, George Tong of Gemini Enterprises and Helen Hanna Casey of Howard Hanna Realty here at Carnegie Mellon Tepper School. So now, what you're really more interested in, I'll hand it over to MBA Prashant Bharatam to introduce our host and our guest, and just want to say thank you very much for everybody for being here, and looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, everyone. My name is Prashant. I'm a second-year MBA, and it's my honor and privilege of introducing Mr. Ed Stack and Professor Meredith Grelly. So Ed Stack is the executive chairman of Dick's Sporting Goods, the company he founded by his father in 1948. When Ed purchased the business from his father in 1984, It was just two small bait and tackle shops in Binghamton, New York. Ed started working in his father's store at the age of 13, but he always imagined he would be a lawyer. When his father got sick as Ed was finishing college, Ed returned home to run the family business, and he fell in love with it. Today, Dick's Sporting Goods owns and operates more than 900 stores that include the brands Dick's, House of Sport, Galaxy Public Lands, and Moose Jaw. It offers a robust omni-channel experience that allows their customers to shop and receive from locations most convenient to them. Dick's employs nearly 50,000 across the United States. Ed is also the author of It's How We Play the Game, Build a Business, Take a Stand, Make a Difference, which chronicles the origins of Dick's Sporting Goods, as well as Dick's decision to stop selling assault-style firearms after the tragic events in Parkland, Florida. After serving as CEO from 1984 to 2021, Ed took the role of executive chairman and chief merchant for the company, which he holds today. Moving along, our own faculty member, entrepreneur in residence, and leader of the Family Business Initiative at Carnegie Mellon, Meredith Meyer-Grelly will be interviewing Mr. Stack. Meredith is a serial entrepreneur herself with a particular affinity for family-led enterprises. I will now hand it over to Professor Grelly. Thank you.
Yeah, I turned it on, yes.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So I am going to kick off our questions tonight, and then we'll hand it over to you all for the last 15 minutes or so that you can ask Mr. Stack your questions. It's a thrill to be here with you tonight. Thanks
Great.
for making this work.
Thanks, really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Directly from a board meeting.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a number of family business students in the room who are just about at that 28-year-old range, maybe.
Yep.
And they are perhaps considering for themselves whether it makes sense that they join their own family firm or that they take a nice sweet offer from a place like, say, Dick's Sporting Goods. Would you mind sharing, as Prashant mentioned, you envisioned your life as an attorney originally.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the decision point when you decided to join the family firm? And at what point the vision for the future of Dick's, when it became enlarged enough that you could see yourself building a life in the company?
That's a lot for the first question.
It's only going to get worse.
Can't wait. So I think whether you start your own business, go back into your family business, or go someplace else, I think that's a decision everybody's got to make for themselves and for their families. I'll just tell you that in the next generation of our business, as we grew the business, one of the things that the rule that we had is that you couldn't come back into the family business right out of college. So when you got out of college, you needed to go somewhere else, kind of get your own experiences, get your own resume, kind of go through all of that, and it's worked well. So but that's just what we did. Doesn't mean that that's right for everybody. I did start working there, when I was 13, and did come back, and I did envision myself as a lawyer. But before I envisioned myself as a lawyer, I envisioned myself as the quarterback for the New York Giants, or the catcher for the New York Yankees. And when I was in a senior in high school and going off to college, and I had an opportunity to play football in college, I realized that I was going to graduate from college. I was going to be 5'10". I was going to weigh 155 pounds, and I was never going to be the quarterback for the New York Giants. So I decided it was time to kind of buckle down from school and knowing I was going to have to go to work. But as I kind of was in the business, I never really, when I was a kid, never anticipated being in the business. Like I said, I started working there when I was 13. I worked there every vacation, summer vacation. When I came home from college, I was working there. And I say tongue-in-cheek, but I kind of really mean it. When I was a kid, I hated every minute of it. I wanted nothing to do with the business. And my dad got sick because I was getting ready to get out of school. So I came back in thinking I would help, but I never thought that I would stay. And somewhere along the line, I fell in love with the business. It's a love affair that I say still exists today. But how I got into this and decided to stay, my father, My father and I had a different agenda of what we wanted to do with the business. I wanted to grow it. He didn't want to grow it. And we would have some pretty spirited conversations about this. And I often say that when my father and I would have one of these spirited conversations and he'd get upset, he would start talking in incomplete sentences in one-syllable words. But you knew exactly what he meant. And he looked at me one day, and I was 23 years old at the time. He looked at me and he said, I can't tell you exactly what he said, but he said, if you think you're such a smart fill-in-the-blanking SOB, go down to the bank, get your own line of credit, and buy me out. So that's what I did. I went down to the bank, got a line of credit, came back and said, we're ready to go, and quickly found out he wasn't quite ready to go. But then a couple years later, in 1984, bought the 2 stores from him and have kind of done what we've done since then. And we say they were small stores. The store was probably not a lot bigger than this room right here. So it was, they were really 2 small stores, and it's been a lot of fun since then.
Yeah, you've certainly been busy. As you've scaled, you've talked in the past about how you've used partnerships to grow Dick's from this smaller retailer
Right.
into the nation's leading sporting goods store. You've talked about partnerships from financial partners to brand partners, Nike, Kevin Plank at Under Armour. Could you talk about how you've used partnerships to grow the enterprise?
Sure. We really looked at partnerships as really true partners. And I do think that from a business perspective, and probably a lot of different things in life, the word partnership or partners are kind of overused. And but we really looked at these partnerships that we wanted it to be a win-win. And whether it was what we were trying to provide to them or what we needed from them, these were really truly partners. And they trusted us and we trusted them. And it wasn't overnight. It took a long time to develop these partnerships and develop that trust. And there were a number of brands that we do business with today that wouldn't sell to us in those early days. Adidas wouldn't sell us, Puma wouldn't sell us, Callaway Golf wouldn't sell us. There were a lot of brands that wouldn't sell to us, but we just kind of kept working them and doing our business, and they started to sell to us. And right now we are virtually everybody's largest account in the United States. But that was all built on trust and to do what you say you were going to do.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about yourself in this way that I love, and I think every entrepreneur in the room will love. You've said that you're supremely competitive and that you love a street fight. So I think
Doesn't sound like a really nice guy, does it?
But I think people often ask entrepreneurs how much they attribute their success to luck versus skill or intelligence. I'm curious how much you attribute your success to this persistent competitiveness versus any other quality.
Well, I think you have to be a bit lucky, and then what you do with that luck makes a difference. But, we are really competitive. And where this whole idea that we like a street fight came from. And we were always the upstart. We were always the small sporting goods retailer that was going to get beat up by whether it was Sports Authority that was owned by Kmart or some other companies that were way bigger than us. We were really the small guys at the time. And we were having an off-site meeting one time, and always had the team read a book before we'd go to these off-site meetings. We'd talk about the book and how it would apply to our business. So we had everybody read the book Good to Great. And we were pretty established at that time, but we were not the biggest by any means. And we had everybody read Collins's book, Good to Great. And one of the things in the book he talks about is what makes you guys tick? What makes you get up in the morning and want to go to work? And it kind of went around the room, and everybody's saying, well, the thing I really get excited about is the merchandise that we carry. Or somebody else said, I really love kind of the sports business we're in, and I like this and that. And I stood up and I said, come on, guys. I said, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to take a walk with my roommate from college, Bill Colombo, and I said, this is BS. Not exactly how I said it, but and I came back and I said, you know what really makes us tick? We love it when we're in a street fight. We love it when we're really in a real competitive battle. We love to be in a street fight, and we're really good at it. No different than from a sports standpoint. You know, if you're playing another team, you want to play against the best team. You want to play against the best team with the best with their best players on the field. And so we're very competitive. But one of the things we did is we had a number of years ago, I asked our head of HR to do I said, I want to do a DNA study on our 50 most successful teammates. And she kind of looked at me kind of weird, and I said, well, a DNA study. I said, we're not taking any blood, we're not taking any hair follicles, just kind of know what makes everybody tick. And so we did this, and the industrial psychologist interviewed all these people, and they knew what was going on. And he came back and he said, might be the most competitive group of people I've ever met. But the difference is they understand that the competition is out there. The competition isn't in the room with the people that they're working with. The competition is, I want to get my boss's job, and I don't want the guy or the woman who reports to me to get my job. What they really want to do is they just want to win. They don't care what position they play, they just want to win. And that's how we are. So it's a really humble group of people that are really competitive, that want to win. But our management team is probably I'm going to tell you, everybody on our management team, you'd be happy to have them as your next door neighbor. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. It sounds like a nice place to work.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I think the recruiters in the room are happy.
Yeah, we do have recruiters here if
Yes,
anybody's
yes.
interested,
Okay.
you know.
Happy to have a conversation with you afterwards. Okay, I want to shift gears from scaling to leadership. After the Sandy Hook school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, you began to think differently about Dick's retail gun sales.
Right.
Your beliefs solidified into clear action after the Parkland school shooting, which, if I'm not mistaken, is just miles down the street from your house in Florida.
Well, it's almost an hour, but
Okay.
it's kind of, yeah.
So as one of the largest gun retailers in America after Parkland, you decided to remove assault-style rifles from your store. You destroyed $5 million worth of gun inventory so that it would not go back into the market. You hired lobbyists to push Congress to increase the legal age to buy a gun in America. You sacrificed significant revenue, hundreds of millions,
Quarter of a billion.
as a result of lost sales, and vendor partners abandoned you. Could you talk about how your stance on gun control affected the internal corporate culture as well as public perception of Dick's in the short and long term, and how you navigated the blowback?
Sure. When Sandy Hook happened, it was devastating, you know. And when you think about what happened to those kids in grammar school, kindergarten and first grade, or anybody that happens to, and at that point we said, you know what, we weren't going to make a big statement. We didn't really think we were in a position to make a big statement, but we slowed down a number of things that we did from a gun standpoint. And we started to think there is a real problem out here from a firearm standpoint. So we didn't really make an announcement, but we pulled back assault weapons out of the most of the Dick's stores at the time, and we decided we're not going to advertise guns. We were only going to advertise firearms in a very certain way during the hunting season. We wouldn't put any firearms in ads that had kind of the back to school stuff in it, you know. So we really made some real changes to our marketing piece and just said, that's all we're going to do. And then when Parkland happened, something happened to me. And it's been a lot of years. I still think about these kids and I lose it, so excuse me. I think about those kids and those parents, and I sat there and I'm, although I may not look like it right now, but I'm viewed as a really kind of a kind of a tough guy. I've been through a lot, and I sat there and watched those families talk about their kids, and I saw thinking about those kids, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I hadn't cried that much since my mother passed away. And at that point I said, we need to do something. We were the third largest seller of firearms in the country and said this system is broken because the kid who did the shooting in Parkland bought a shotgun from us that November. So not the gun that he used in the shooting, but that doesn't matter. We sold him a shotgun in November before he did that, before he committed that shooting on February 14th. And when I found that out, I said, we got to do something about it. We have to say something about this because this system is literally broken. And it's divided on the right side of the aisle and the left side of the aisle. And so we came out and we said, and I said, okay, we're going to send out a press release about this. And we're going to take the assault-style weapons out of every single store, the Dick's stores, which they're primarily out of the Dick's stores, but also the Field and Streams, our hunt, camp, and fish concept that we had. We're going to take them out of there. We're not going to sell any firearm to anybody under 21 years of age, firearms or ammunition. We're not going to sell any high-capacity magazines. And we never sold a bump stock, but we committed we weren't going to sell bump stocks. So I said, we're going to just send out a press release. That's what we're doing. And who's now the CEO, Lauren Hobart, who was running marketing at the time, she sat down with me. She said, you have to go on TV and talk about this. And I said, I don't want to do that. But anyway, she convinced me to do that. So I went on Good Morning America with Stephanopoulos and talked about it. And then I went over to CNN and talked to Chris Cuomo about it. And when we made that announcement, and it wasn't planned to be that, but it was the same day the kids were going back to school that they were letting the kids go back to school in Parkland. And at that point, I'd done those 2 interviews, and it was the #1 trending thing on Twitter, and we had 450 requests for interviews in like an hour. And the team was saying, okay, we got 450, we're going to kind of look at these and see who we want to go see. And I said, no, we're going home. This is not a publicity. We made our statement. It's out there. We're going home. So we went home, and that was that. That afternoon, Trump assembled members of Congress and his cabinet and talked about what we need to do about this, about the gun issue. And Trump made some real comments about almost sounding like he was going to move on this. And then later that weekend, he backed off on it all. So anyway, at this point, we've kind of done all this. We have real blowback. I mean, I'm getting hate mail. Lauren's getting hate mail. Vicious, nasty stuff. Now, we knew this was all going to happen, but we felt it was really important for us to do this. So we did it, and we were getting real blowback, and we decided what we're going to do. We had a whole bunch of these weapons, these guns, and they said, well, we're going to take these, our team said, well, we're going to send these guns back to the manufacturer. They're going to charge us a restocking fee, but we'll get most of our money out of these guns, and we're going to do that. I said, we're not going to do that. I said, if we really believe these things should not be on the street, we're going to destroy them. So we took $5 million worth of the assault weapons, and we melted them down and destroyed them. If we had been really smart, which we weren't, we would have taken the remnants of these, and we would have built playgrounds, basketball hoops, and all that kind of stuff. But we weren't thinking terribly clearly at the time. So we got rid of all the guns, and the blowback on the stores and our sales were really bad. We got hammered on the news from one news station. It cost us $250 million in revenue. Our earnings kind of plummeted. Again, we knew all this was going to happen. And we talked about it afterwards, several months later, and said, if we had a chance to do it all over again, we'd do it exactly the same way. It was the right thing to do. And then this is where I have a really hard time talking about this story. We got a call from the families.
From the Parkland families.
Yeah. And asked us to come down and talk to them. So I went down and talked to them. maybe the worst day of my life with my. This is not how I planned this talk, you know. So I talked to these families, and they talked about what happened to their kids, and it's just tragic, you know. I mean, some of these. I remember one mom who looked at me and said, "It's been a month since my son was killed." I go into his bedroom. And I talk to him every night. And you can't even imagine. So anyway, when we got done with the meeting, I said to the families, I said, "What would you like me to do?" And I was already going to go to Washington. They said, they told me what they'd like me to do. They said, "I'd like you to try to make sure this never happens to any other family." So they, you know, and as they said this and they were talking about what to do, not one family who went through the worst thing that could ever happen to a family, not one of them said, in a malicious way, ban all guns. We got to get rid of all guns. Nobody, you know, nobody said that. They said, we need reasonable gun laws. You know, from a background check standpoint, assault weapons should be outlawed. But they were all rational on how they approach this. We in the country today argue our positions irrationally, whether you're on one side or the other. You know, we argue our positions irrationally. These families had every right to argue their position irrationally. They didn't. And when I left there, I was so jazzed to go to Washington because I'm thinking, if these families feel this way and they could be irrational and they were so rational, I'm going to get to Washington. They're going to be rational about this, and we're going to finally get something done here. I went to the Hill, and I talked with senators. I talked with, you know, Congress. I worked with people, and I failed miserably. Nothing got done. And on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats just blamed it on the Republicans. The Republicans wouldn't talk about it. I was in one Republican's office, I won't say who it was, and the conversation got a little bit spirited when I said, so you wouldn't make it that you have to have a background check. Everybody has to have a background check, because there's a lot of holes in the gun laws. Anyway, so, and he was knowing, so we got into a bit of a spirited conversation, and I decided that I was going to get up and leave because I wasn't going to give this guy the satisfaction of throwing me out of his office, because he was that far from doing it. But it was a really difficult time for the country. It was a difficult time for our company. And you talk to anybody in our company today, our board, any of our leadership, we do it all over again exactly the same way. Had a big impact on our business, negative-wise, but then we took a look and said, okay, these people they're not going to shop from, and it wasn't that they were not going to just shop firearms or the hunting business. We had people saying, hey, you know what? I'm not buying my kids sneakers from you. I'm not buying my kids baseball bats from you. I'm not shopping with you, period. And so we went through that, and we kind of had a sense of that. And then as we started taking a look, and okay, we're going to take all hunt out of the stores and test it where we can do other businesses, and kind of things happen in strange ways. But as we took that business out, our business, what we replaced it with, actually sold better, higher sales, higher margins, and the company has done just fine. But it was a difficult time, and I still hope that we can get something done from a firearm standpoint. One of the things that I promised the families when I talked with them is that we would always try to keep this conversation going, which is why in a situation like this, you asked me the question, as much as I still have a really tough time emotionally talking about it, I feel it's what I promised those families to do. So it was a really tough deal with those families. You can't even imagine.
I can't. So you made this decision as the leader of a publicly traded firm. And we were all taught in business school that you are to maximize shareholder value. And you knew going in that this was going to cost your firm. Do you think you would have had the same latitude to make this decision if you were not a family-run enterprise?
I think for another company, it would have been difficult to do because of the blowback. The stock price goes down, then you become a target. I think it would have been difficult to do. What was interesting is the after I got done on that day that it went on to Good Morning America in CNN and made that announcement, that night, Walmart came out and made the exact same commitment, as did LL Bean and a local retailer up in the Pacific Northwest, Fred Meyer. And I'm not sure about Fred Meyer, but LL Bean, Walmart, all family controlled. And so they all came out and they've got the latitude to be able to make those right decisions. None of us are worried about there's going to be an activist or what anybody's going to do. And all of those guys came out and made the exact same commitment. And when Walmart came out and made that commitment, we felt really great that they joined us in that.
And your shares were structured in a way that helped insulate you.
There is, because our capital structure is we've got two classes of stock. We've got the A shares, which trade on the exchange, and then we've got the B shares, which can't trade on the exchange, but have 10 votes for every 1 share of stock versus what is on the exchange for 1-to-1. And some people think you shouldn't have that, and we can have that debate. But we would never have gone public if we didn't, because I would not want to have some people being able to just try to monetize 1 quarter or 1 year of the business and then have it be a problem going forward. And without that kind of vote, it gets a lot more difficult to be able to make these decisions for the long-term benefit of the business, or in this case, we'd like to think the country. And what we've done, our whole view is that if we saved 1 life, and I'm pretty confident we have, you can never know, but what we've done with taking guns off the street and all this, I think we have, and if we saved 1 life, then it was all worth it.
I want to shift gears now to a topic that I think will excite many in the room, right up our alley here at Carnegie Mellon, and talk about e-commerce and how you're thinking about the future of shopping. I know we have a leader here, Reed Siegel, one of our own, a Tepper grad, who is one of the leaders of your e-commerce business with us. Dick's is pursuing this extraordinary strategy where you're growing through this new House of Sport retail concept, which is 100,000 square foot store that provides customer with extraordinary in-store experiences, including climbing walls, different sports cages, golfing options. At the same time, you're prioritizing e-commerce as well. You've noted in the past that everyone walks around with a store in his or her pocket, in fact, a whole range of competing stores. How are people shopping now, and how will that continue to evolve?
Well, I think it will certainly continue to evolve, but people are really shopping different, multi-channel. So they're shopping the stores, they're shopping us online, they're shopping us from an iPad, from a mobile, from a mobile standpoint, their laptops. But the retailers who are going to survive going forward, we believe, are the ones that provide an omni-channel or a multi-channel experience. And the fact that from your brick and mortar business, it has to be experiential. There has to be some reason to go there. And you talk about our House of Sport concept. We've got 12 of these House of Sports open today. We're going to open up roughly another 10 of them next year, and by 26 we'll have roughly 100 of these. So these stores are roughly 100 to 150,000 square feet. Most of them have a field adjacent to it where you can go out and try the product, or kids can come and practice. They're really pretty spectacular. And how we got to this is probably 7 or 8 years ago. We decided that we needed to design what we characterize as the store of the future. So what would retail look like? We designed it, went all through all the traps, so to speak, on it. And in our office, we've got about a 25,000 square foot area where we can build different aspects of it, of whatever we're doing in the stores. So we built some parts of it, and when we walked through it, we said, not different enough from what we're doing right now. It's really not innovative. And in order to survive in retail today, you've got to be innovative. And we said, not good enough. So we put it on the shelf, kind of went back to kind of doing our normal business. And probably 4 years ago, came back and said, we've got to build this new store. And we characterize this now as the ecosystem of the future, because it was going to be digital, it was going to be experiential. And the guiding light on what this store was going to be, is I briefed the team on it. I got them all together and we talked about it. I said, we need to build the concept that will kill Dick's Sporting Goods. We need to build the concept that if somebody else built this store across the street from us, we're out of business. And that's what we did. So we went to work on this, and we opened the first one in Rochester, New York, in an old Sears building that closed down. And it was called House of Sport. We changed the name of it. And these stores are just unbelievable from a sales standpoint. They've got a field next to them that's roughly a 20,000 square foot field. As I said, we got kids coming to play soccer, to practice, leagues coming in there. Right now in the northern markets where we've got Rochester, Minneapolis, and Binghamton, New York, we actually have it in a hockey rink now. We turned the field into a hockey rink. And hockey teams are coming to practice there. We have community skates on nights. And so you really have to have something that's truly experiential. And couple that with what we're doing from a digital standpoint, we're pretty excited about where our business is going right now. But you have to mold these two together, and you can't be afraid to disintermediate yourself. Because if you don't go try to disintermediate yourself, there's going to be some pretty smart kids at CMU or someplace else that are going to disintermediate you, anyway. So that's what we've done, and we're really excited about it.
Excellent. Okay, my last question for you before we hand it over to these smart people at CMU for their questions. I'm curious what you hope your legacy will be for Dick's, and what role you see the next generation of your family having in the company.
So my legacy, I don't know. I haven't thought about it really as a legacy, but I mean, first and foremost, my family is the most important to me. So the business is great, and I love the business, but if my family wasn't close, didn't love me, I didn't love them, we didn't, then whatever you could do kind of in a legacy standpoint means nothing. So, kind of how my family evolves over the generation, the next generation, grandkids and all that is what really is most important to me. But from a business standpoint, I hope our business continues to survive, for a next couple of, number of generations. It was, anybody that read the book and didn't fall asleep reading the book might have got to this part about my father got sick, as I said, and he was close to death. I went to see him and talked with him, and I don't know if he could hear me or not, but I talked with him and I said, Dad, if you need to go, it's okay. There's nothing else you can do in the business. I promise I'll take care of the business. I'll promise I'll take care of the business for future generations, and because that's what he just wanted. He had this little store, but it was his life, and he really wanted that to continue on in the family for as many generations as possible. So I promised him on his deathbed, and after we had this conversation that night, he passed away. And so I hope the legacy is that our family continued to be meaningfully involved in the business. It continues to be a viable, terrific business that serves the community and that never forgets where it came from, and will always have kind of the guts to make the decisions that we made following Parkland, whatever that decision might have to be, whatever comes our way. So that's kind of hope what the legacy would be.
Excellent. All right, let's give Ed Stack a round of applause before we open it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's fair to say you're the first CEO leader to bring a group to tears in Simmons Auditorium at Tepper School of Business.
Probably the first one to actually cry up here, too. So,
Prashant is going to travel around to you. If you have a question, he's going to deliver you a microphone so that you can ask Mr. Stack.
Thank you, John Seifer.
John.
How do you deal with, as you get into the second, third, maybe even fourth generation, some of the family members who don't want to work in the business or can't work in the business? How do you structure all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think every family has to do it however they want or whatever is best for their family. Because family dynamics are every family has different dynamics. And one of the things, so our business fortunately has been really successful. And what we've set it up for the generation, if anybody wants to come back into the business, if they have the aptitude and the desire, they can do that. But only after they've gone and done work someplace else. They can't come right in. But one of the things that we've set up for our family that I've kind of talked to the kids about since they were younger, they're all grown now, but nobody can be a ski bum. So nobody can just kind of live off the business and be a ski bum. They all have to be kind of active in society, and that could be anywhere from, my one daughter who was a teacher to an environmentalist one daughter I've got an environmentalist. They don't have to be involved in the business. They don't have to have high-paying jobs, but they can't be a ski bum, but they just sit around doing nothing and go someplace and ski or do whatever they want to do. So that's our biggest issue, is that everybody needs to be participating in society going forward. Pardon me?
How do you enforce that?
There's a trust that they can't get any. They can't.
Lock up the money.
They can't get any money, unless Anyway, the vault is closed.
Hey, Ed. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We're going up there.
No, go ahead, and we'll get right here next.
Cool. Thanks so much for your time today. Connor Cuff, second-year MBA. Curious about this House of Sport. It sounds like an incredible immersive experience, one of the fastest growing industries as well as gambling. And in your sports business especially, it seems like those two may go hand in hand in the future. Is that anything you would ever be interested in, or is it a no-go from your perspective?
From a gambling standpoint?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the gambling aspect of it. So you won't see gambling kind of we're not going to be in the gambling business, Yeah, we're not going to. But it's a great question because there's a lot going on right now. And I just don't think that's not something that we want to get involved in. We have a microphone down here? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm curious, how did you view the business when you first got the business, and how did that transition as the business scaled?
How did I view the business? Well, I first viewed the business as a way to make a living. It was just, and how can we survive? When my father got sick and I came back into the business, I was the oldest of 5 kids. The other kids were still in either college or high school or junior high school. And the view was, this is just what you do. Family business, my father's sick. We've got this family business. Nobody else is going to be there. So I came back in as kind of almost a family duty, And then somewhere along the line, I fell in love with the business and realized that we actually could make something out of this business and really grow this business. And that's what we've done. And it's been a great ride. We've had a great amount of people who have helped us along the way. So we didn't do this all ourselves. We had vendors who helped us. We had, people from the banking communities helped us. So it's really been partnership with an awful lot of people that have helped us. I remember we almost went out of business twice. Literally almost went out of business. So once was in 1987 with the savings and loan crisis, when Keating kind of screwed up the banking industry. And we hadn't done anything wrong. We'd never missed a bank payment, anything. But the regulators didn't like the ratios of our business, and we were told that they needed to we needed to find another bank. They gave us 30 days to find another bank. And if there was a bank in Binghamton that if they hadn't stepped up to us and gave us a line of credit, we'd be out of business today. And when we were going through this difficult time, I called a few of the people that we do business with and said, hey, we're having a problem right now with the bank, and we can't pay our bill right now. But this was in October, November. I said, but after Christmas, we'll be able to pay you. And Columbia Sportswear, Nike, some of those people all said, no problem. We trust you. And then January 10th, right after the holiday, we paid our bills. So, and if they had said, hey, we're not going to ship you anything else, blah, 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 we'd have a real problem. So, but it's been, there's been good days and bad days, but these partnerships and partnerships/friendships that you develop in the business make all the difference in the world when things get tough. And whatever you do in your career, whether you work at a corporate environment, start your own business, I can tell you one thing for sure, you'll have some really tough days. And you want to have somebody that you can talk to, that can help you, because you will need help somewhere along the line.
Hi, I'm Shagun. I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I'm not part of a family business, and my family isn't either, but I feel like I learned so much, so thank you. I also haven't cried this semester, so I appreciate this being the first time. But what I'm curious about is, as you mentioned, you and your dad had very different visions for the business. And I'm curious about what gave you the conviction to expand, and where did you get that inspiration from? And as you were expanding, what did you look to for best practices and how to do it, especially because I'm just curious where you got that knowledge, vision, and experience from.
Yeah, so the experience came from experience. Making some mistakes. And I've often said I've learned more, and most people will tell you, you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. But kind of where I got the vision from, I honestly didn't want to come back and live in Binghamton, New York, and operate 2 little sporting goods stores the size of this room, and that would be my life. It was not what I had in mind. I had other ideas of going to law school. I always had political aspirations, and that was not what I wanted to do. So we started to do that. But where I got a lot of inspiration in learning is I read a lot of books, magazines, books. I mean, I read everything about Sam Walton, whether it was Walton wrote the book or somebody wrote a book about Sam Walton. I learned a lot from, never met Sam Walton, but learned a lot from his learnings, which we applied, was really, I think, the biggest roadmap for growing our business was what Sam Walton did with Walmart. And then Jack Welch, I read a lot about from him. I read a lot about other entrepreneurs. I read Nesbitt's book. I mean, I just read a whole lot of stuff and kind of put it all together. And there was some skill involved, but make no mistake, there was a lot of luck involved. We're in a business that sports is really important in the United States. It's a culture. Every kid is playing. I talk about you drive by a soccer field on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. You see 16 bazillion 5-year-olds playing magnet ball around a soccer ball. They don't understand lanes. They just all run to the ball. But sport is a real part of the culture in our country. So we got really lucky from that standpoint. And we got really lucky that we got some really smart people who joined the business. We got really lucky because Nike did so much, what Nike did, and we were a big Nike partner. So just a combination of the universe came together, and it's knock on wood, it's worked out okay. Thanks.
I'm curious what gave you the conviction, because I think as a lot of young people, we have imposter syndrome to believe that our judgment is correct because we lack the experience.
Yeah, I'd have confidence in yourself because, part of my conviction was my father and I had some spirited conversations. And my father said, I don't want you to do this, which meant I'm definitely going to go do this, right? That's kind of the way it goes. But have more conviction in yourself. Your generation is the smartest generation of all time. Your generation is the one who's most likely to make a really positive impact on this world. This generation is a generation that really doesn't care about some of the things that have still hinder us today and have hindered us for years, whether that's around, economics, race, sexual orientation, economics. Your generation doesn't really care. You just want to know, is somebody a good person? Can we be friends? And all that. So I'm really optimistic, although the world is in a pretty messed up place right now, and I think we haven't hit rock bottom yet. But I am pretty optimistic about the world going forward because of your generation and the group of generation that might be just a smidge ahead of you guys. The people that I work with that are of your generation, they are some of my favorite people in the world. I mean, Reed came from CMU, came to us, and don't tell him, but he's one of my favorites, But anyway, I'm pretty optimistic about the world going forward as you guys progress. So don't doubt yourself. Think, make calculated decisions, listen to other people, take feedback. But if your gut says something you should do, then you should probably go do it. And you'll probably be right.
Okay, Prasan, I think we have time for 2 more questions, so pick wisely.
Pick wisely.
Hi, my name is Faith, and my question for you, earlier you were talking about how you actually took your partners and you guys have a partnership. So do you have any tools or rules that we can use in terms of networking and negotiations?
So networking, it's so much simpler than everybody thinks. So it's really be nice and considerate. Doesn't mean you have to be, a pushover, but be nice, be respectful, and that's in kind of know exactly what you want, your strategy and your tactics that you need to be there, but just be a kind, nice person. I mean, that's what we've tried to do. Now, we've had some spirited conversations. Sometimes we have to say, no, we're not going to do something, or we have to make tough decisions, but it's not, building a relationship in a business is really not a lot different than building a relationship with your friends or your family or your teammates when if you play on the baseball team or you're in the drama club or whatever it is. It's not at the end of the day, we're all people just trying to do what's right, and it's not that complicated. Sorry, I can't give you a different answer, but that's kind of the way it is.
Hi, I'm Pratik. Thanks for your talk. I have an open-ended question. So what is your perspective on evolution? Like suppose there's this new hotshot thing everyone is using. So how does this influence the decisions that you will make or the strategies that you will change?
I'm sorry, the beginning part of the question again?
About evolution or evolving into new strategies or changing the perspective of your business or planning.
What are we changing, or?
If there is a new hotshot thing that came around, everyone is using that, then what's your perspective on change?
You need to embrace it because the world is constantly evolving and changing, and if you don't embrace change, I think you'll end up being passed by. When e-commerce, the internet was starting, our first e-commerce business, our first e-commerce sale was in 1999, and that's when a lot of retailers were saying, "This isn't going to be. We want it to go away. It's not going to be that good. You can't make any money in it." And then there was another group of people who were saying, "This is the wave of the future. All brick and mortar retailers going to go away. Everything's going to be online." So you got to find the balance of where you think that is, but you have to embrace that change. So we've always embraced that change from an e-commerce standpoint. Different things in our businesses. That's why you're embracing the change and innovation to build this House of Sports store. If you rewind the film 3 years ago, Wall Street, that place Wall Street, whatever they are, would say to a retailer, I don't know how many stores you have, but you have too many because everything's going to go online. Or they would say, I don't know how big your store is, but I'm telling you right now it's too big. And we went exactly the opposite of what they wanted to do. We've built bigger stores. We're still adding stores, but they're innovative, different, and they bring a consumer or what we characterize as an athlete to us. One of the things that I think you really need to understand from a change standpoint, because when change happens, some people think, well, my customers are loyal. And from a cynical standpoint, and I've always talked to our team about this, in retail, and other things also, but in retail, the definition of loyalty is the absence of a better alternative. And as soon as there's a better alternative, somebody's going to drive down the street or they're going to click someplace else and they're going to shop someplace else. We've seen it when we were the better alternative. We're taking a look at what's going on out there in the marketplace and saying, you know what, we've been the better alternative for the last 30 years. We better define what the better alternative is for the next 30 years, which is why we've developed the House of Sport. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
A great final question. Are you saying there's one more brilliant question, Prashant? There's one more brilliant question that must be voiced.
Thank you so much for the chance. This is Verity from Master of Philosophy Department. And it's very interesting for your talk where you mentioned about like you want the business to keep like growing across different generations like over the years, as well as the House of Sports. However, like I'm curious about like not just about like attracting, say, when we think about sports, it's most of the time about like young people or say younger generations. However, in a lot of like countries and regions in this world, they are facing like an aging society. So what's your plan or view that you think like the company will be able to like, you know, any plans or strategies? Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And that's one of the things that we do think about in this. But this aging population is younger than the aging population of our parents, and this next generation is going to be younger than we are. You know, so they're going to be much more active. You know, you got we sell a ton of running shoes to people that are over 50 or 60. We sell golf clubs. You sell skis. You sell all of this. I mean, I think you can have an aging population, but I think people still want to be active in moving. And I got a great story. I was skiing out in Colorado, and my wife and I were standing in line. There were 4 guys got on the lift. The lift took off, went up. One guy went to pull the bar down, and he fell right off from about 15 feet right into this hole. And the girls who were working the lift, jumped down there, tried to get him out. They couldn't get him out. So I take off my skis, climb down in there, and pull this guy out. And I said, are you okay? And he's the older guy. He goes, yeah, I'm okay. And I kind of talked with him and got him all settled. And the people he's with, they can't back up the lift. They got to go to the top. So he goes, I really want to go skiing with my son and my friends. And he said, can I ride up with you? And my wife and I said, of course, you can ride up with me. So we get them all set up. We're riding up there. And he goes, I'm so embarrassed. I never did this before. He said, but I got to get up there with my son. He said, we're here celebrating my 90th birthday. Wow. I mean, how good is that? So this guy's 90 years old and he's still skiing. And so I just think the population might get older, but I think it's still going to be active. And you're still going to have that younger generation that is going to, who's going to come along. And I think as our generations are younger, I think they're also more health conscious, more wellness conscious, and that plays right into what right into our business. So we're pretty confident. I think if the next generation can, I think they've got a pretty good roadmap of what they can do. You have a follow-on? I'm sorry, we can't hear you from all the way up here.
Thank you. So the follow-up question is like, how do you retain these people? Like, say, like when there is House of Sports where it provides a really good experience, like there's soccer fields, etc. But for this like aging population, like say after they are say like 40 or 50 years old, how do you still retain them to the store where they still want to experience?
40. Come on. It's just, it happens every day here.
It's okay. I think it's a great question. I don't really know how to answer it because I'm 68 years old and I'm as active as can be. I still ski, I run, I do a ton of stuff. So I don't think we're the ones who need to retain them. I think they will be active and they will come and shop with us if we're the right alternative. And I think that we will be the right alternative going forward. So, hey, we love 40 and 50-year-olds.
All right, I have to say, my father's in the room, and he is maybe the most active person I know. Pickleball. It's a pickleball era, everyone. All right, thank you, Mr. Stack.
Thank you.
For
Thank you very much.
Amazing
Thank
talk.
you. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Real quick, my friends, I want to thank all of the people who have made this event possible. Thank you for being here. Thank you to UBS, to Andrew Shantz and Greg Merrill, to Dean Bajou, the amazing Dean Bajou, Dave Mawhinney, the executive director of the Swartz Center, who also made all of this happen, and the Swartz Center team. Alex, if he's not in the room, is out there. He is making the food happen. Did I mention there's food and jobs in the hallway? Food and jobs in the hallway. Please come back in February and March for our upcoming speakers. They will be just as extraordinary as this talk. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.